Hello, my dear students. Pleasant good morning to all of you. How are you all? Hope all of you are safe and sound, and I am very happy to meet you all after a long time through this video class. I welcome you all to this English class. Before we begin the class, let us see a good thought for the day. The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, said by an American poet, H.W. Longfellow, Henry Wordsworth Longfellow. Indeed, this was one of my most inspirational quotes. It somehow always powered me to achieve my set targets. Absolutely forever relevant. We are only human and none of us is perfect. I love this quote very much because it shows me that Rome was not built in a day. The great pyramids were not put together overnight. Anything that is worth having has been done one step at a time. So, my dear children, we expect you should always work hard and give your best. It doesn't matter what you are doing in life. If you always give your best, you will get much better results than if you don't. Giving 100% in everything you do always leads you to greater things in life. Now, we shall move to our syllabus. In 12th English, totally we have 6 units, and each unit contains a prose, a poem, and a supplementary reader. Today, we shall start with a poem from Unit 1, The Castle, which is written by a Scottish poet, Edwin Muir. The Castle, written by a Scottish poet, Edwin Muir. Hope you are all ready with your writing materials to take down notes. Before we move to the poem, let me have a few questions. Do you have any idea about the title, The Castle? What do you mean by a castle? It is a large building with high walls and towers that was built architecturally in the past to defend people against attack. It is like a royal residence. What are the various parts of the castle? It is nothing but ramparts, turrets, towers, gatehouse, moats, etc. Have you ever visited a castle, children? What was actually the castle used for? In the Middle Ages or in the medieval period, that is 5th century to 15th century, the castles used for war. Now, see the poet. The poem The Castle, written by a renowned Scottish poet, Edwin Muir. Edwin Muir was a novelist, critic, and translator. He was born on 15th of May, 1887. He was known for his deeply felt philosophical poetry, philosophical style for which he gained recognition later in his life. When he was 14, he lost his family. He lost everybody in his family. Later, he forced to work in factories and he suffered psychologically in a most destructive way. All these depressing experiences enabled him to write poetry at a later stage. From 1946 to 1949, he was director of the British Council. In 1950, he served as a warden in Newbattle Abbey College. In 1955, he was made Norton Professor of English at Harvard University. He died on 3rd January 1959 at the age of 72. His first poems and chorus of the newly dead contain Muir's initial attempts. Muir's later collections include Variations on a Time Theme, The Narrow Place, The Voyage and Other Poems, The Labyrinth, and One Foot in Eden. Now we shall see the poem The Castle, written by Edwin Muir. All through that summer, at ease we lay, and daily from the turret wall we watched the mowers in the hay, and the enemy half a mile away, they seemed no threat to us at all. For what we thought had we to fear, with the arms and provender load on load, our towering battlements tier on tier, and friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. Our gates were strong, our walls were thick, so smooth and high, no man could win a foothold there, no clever trick could take us dead or quick, only a bird would have gotten. What good they offer us for bait? Our captain was brave and we were true. There was a little private gate, a little wicket gate. The wizened warder let them through. Oh, then our maze of tunneled stone grew thin and treacherous as air. The cause was lost without a groan. The famous citadel overthrown, and all its sacred galleries bare. How can this shameful tale be told? I will maintain until my death. We could do nothing, being sold. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight it with. By Edwin Muir. This poem, The Castle, describes how the well-guarded castle fell to the greed of an aged warder. Warder means guard or a person who guards of something. This poem tells the story of an unspecified battle. This poem is written in the form of a monologue. What do you mean by monologue? What do you mean by dialogue? Die means true. It is a speech or conversation between two people. Like that, mono means one. It is a long speech by one person. Here, in this poem, one of the soldiers lodged in the castle narrates the entire poem. The whole narration is done by a loyal soldier. So many soldiers were there in the castle. The narrator was one among them. Who is the narrator of this poem? One of the soldiers of the castle. The poem The Castle contains 6 stanzas, and each stanza contains 5 lines with a rhyming scheme of A, B, A, A, B. The poem The Castle contains 6 stanzas, and each stanza contains 5 lines with the rhyming scheme of AB, AAB. Let me go with the first stanza. All through that summer at ease we lay, and daily from the turret wall we watched the mowers in the hay, and the enemy half a mile away. They seemed no threat to us at all. All through that summer, it was a summer time. All through that summer, throughout the summer, at ease, which means free from anxiety, calm and cool, stress free or relaxed, free and easy, we lay. What does the word we refer to? The word we refers to the soldiers of the castle. Lay, it is the past tense of lie, which means remind. We remind calm and cool. The soldiers of the castle remained calm and cool. The soldiers of the castle remained stress free and free from anxiety. See the second line. And daily from the turret wall, daily and every day. From the turret wall. What do you mean by turret wall? A small tower on top of the castle is known as turret wall. And daily from the turret wall, we watched the mowers in the hay. We, the soldiers of the castle, watched, looked at the mowers. The people who trim grass level is known as the mowers. See the picture? Mowers. And daily from the turret wall, the soldiers watched the mowers in the hay. It shows the soldiers of the castle remained calm and cool. Actually, how a soldier should be? A soldier should be very alert. But here in this castle, the soldiers remained cool because of the strength of the castle. And the enemy half a mile away, enemy, opponent of the soldiers, they were half a mile away. The enemies had camped half a mile away. They seemed no threat to us at all. They, enemies, seemed, appeared, no threat, not a cause of fear. Even though the enemies camped at half a mile distance of the soldiers were confident that no one could trick them or fight them to enter the castle. So the narrator says that there was no threat to us at all. Let me summarize the first stanza. One of the soldiers of the castle tells the story. It was summertime. Throughout the summer, the soldiers in the castle were free and easy. They were free from anxiety. They were not at all worried. They looked at the mowers cutting the grass. The enemy had camped half a mile away. They were no threat to the soldiers. See the second stanza. For what we thought had we to fear, with the arms and provender load on load, our towering battlements tier on tier, and friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. For what? What for? Why? We thought had we to fear. They thought had we to fear. They thought to themselves, what should we be afraid of? With the arms and weapons like sword, spear, etc., And provender, food, which means provender means food. Load on load. A good stock they heard. They had plenty of weapons to protect them. And they had a good stock of food, a large quantity of food. So they were fearless in the castle. Our towering battlements. What do you mean by battlements? A wall on a castle with openings to shoot the enemies. See the picture? Towering battlements. Our towering battlements, tier on tier, layer after layer, or one above the other. The soldiers stood one above the other on the battlements, watching to shoot at enemies. So they were fearless in the castle. And friendly allies drawing near. Friendly allies, friends, supporting nations, drawing near. They are approaching the castle to help us out. On every leafy summer road, all leafy, covered with leaves, summer road. So they believed that the castle was absolutely safe, so that they were fearless in the castle. See the second stanza. What should we be afraid of? We thought to ourselves, we had a good stock of weapons and food. On the high walls, there were openings one above the other. We could shoot at enemies from the battlements. On the roads around, scattered with leaves, our friends were coming to help us. See the third stanza. Our gates were strong. Our walls were thick, so smooth and high, no man could win a foothold there. No clever trick could take us dead or quick. Only a bird could have gotten. Our gates were strong. Here, the poet talks about the physical strength of the castle. Our gates were strong. And the walls were thick, huge, so smooth, with even surface, and high, which means the gates were strong and walls were thick. The walls of the castle so smooth and high. The castle had a deep moat around it. The walls were smooth, strong, and very high. So no man could enter into the castle. A foothold there. What do you mean by foothold? A place to put the foot in climbing. There was a foothold. No clever trick. Trick means cunningness. Could take us, defeat us, hold us captives, dead or quick. Here, quick means alive. No one catch them alive or dead using any trick. Only a bird, high-flying bird, gotten, can enter. Even by a trick, no one but the birds could enter into the castle. In the third stanza, the poet describes the strength of the castle. The gates were very strong and their walls were very thick. So, No one could enter the castle. Only a bird could fly over the wall and reach the castle. The walls of the castle were thick and the gates were strong. Therefore, no one could break into the castle. The walls were smooth and high, so no one could climb the wall. No one could occupy a small space inside. No one could catch them alive or dead using any trick. Only a high flying bird could enter the castle. See the fourth stanza. What could they offer us for bait? Our captain was brave and we were true. There was a little private gate, a little wicket gate. The wizened warder let them through. What could they offer us for bait? They, opponents, the enemies of the soldiers, offer, give, or bribe. Bait, which means something intended to entice someone to do something. The soldiers inside the castle were loyal. The castle can neither be won in a war nor be cunningly conquered through bribe. A captain was brave. Captain, head of the soldiers, brave, courageous. And we were true. We, the soldiers inside the castle, and we were true. Here, the word true means loyal, faithful. Till now, we have seen the physical strength of the castle. They had a good stock of weapons and food. They had a support from their friends, and the gates were strong. Walls were thick, so smooth and high. The captain was courageous, and the soldiers of the castle were very true. They were loyal to the castle. So, the soldiers, unmindful of the presence of the enemies, even though they camped at half a mile distance. Now, see what happened next. There was a little private gate. There was a little private gate. A private gate means a small gate used only by a few people. There was a little private gate, a little wicket gate. Wicked means evil or bad. Wicket gate is nothing but the private gate. A small gate, usually close to a big main gate. Wicket gate means a small gate, usually close to a big main gate. There was a little private gate, a little wicket gate. The wizened warder let them through. The wizened warder, wizened means aged or old. Warder means God, a security. Wizened warder, old God, or an aged security. Let them, the enemies, the opponent soldiers, let them through. There was a little private gate in the castle. It was guarded by an old man. Through this private gate, the old wizened warder let in the enemies inside the famous castle. He opened the small gate for the enemies. The castle was captured by the enemies. Who had let the enemies in? An aged warder. The soldiers inside the castle were loyal. The captain was brave, and the soldiers also very faithful to the castle. So, the enemy would not entice the soldiers with any kind of bribe. But there was a small wicket gate in the castle. It was guarded by a wicked old warder. Wicked means evil or bird. The warder was greedy. The old wizened warder was greedy. He got something like money or some other things from enemy and admitted them inside the castle. See the fifth stanza. Oh, then our maze of tunneled stone grew thin and treacherous as air. The cause was lost without a groan, the famous citadel overthrown, and all its secret galleries bare. Oh, then our maze of tunneled stone. Oh, then, after that, a maze, a place with winding and confused paths of tunneled stone. Maze of tunneled stone. Maze, which means confusion. Oh, then a maze of tunneled stone. Tunnel means an underground passage. Here, the narrator is describing the physical strength of the castle. Grew thin and treacherous as air. Grew thin, became weak, treacherous, disloyal, or cunning and deceitful. How strong the castle was! It has thick and high walls and everything. Now it grew thin, it became weak as air. Simile. The way to the castle has tunneled with stones. It was a proud maze of tunneled stones, but it became thin and weak like air due to treachery or disloyalty of the wizened warder. The strong castle became weak and thin because of the greedy or disloyal soldier. The strength of the tunnels turned treacherous, and the castle was overthrown without a groan of protest and fight. The cause was lost without a groan. The famous citadel overthrown, and all its secret galleries bare. The cause. Cause. What cause? The reason for defeat. Without a groan, without the least resistance, because the soldiers were overpowered by surprise. Groan, soft moan, lament, or cry. The strength of the tunnels turned treacherous, and the castle was overthrown without a groan and protest or fight. Without a groan of protest and fight. This is precisely what happened with the soldiers of the castle. The soldiers only focused on the strength of their physical surroundings And what was within? Caused, sorry, the soldiers only focused on the strength of their physical surroundings and what was beyond the castle. But betrayal from within caused the castle's fall. The famous citadel overthrown. The famous citadel overthrown. What do you mean by citadel? Citadel is nothing but the castle, fort. The famous citadel overthrown. Overthrown, defeated. The famous castle defeated. And all its secret galleries, secret galleries, treasures, bare, empty, rooted. The rare treasures of the castle or citadel were looted by the enemies. The castle fell without even a groan of protest, even a small physical fight. It shows the extreme stockpile of arms and everything would be useless if even a single person is ruled by greed. The famous citadel overthrown and all its secret galleries bare. If even a single person is ruled by greed, the external stockpile of arms and everything would be useless. No one can, though they had a maze of tunnels, the enemies walked through the tunnels with ease. They lost the castle. The soldiers lost their castle without any fight or groan of protest. The famous citadel was overthrown. The tunnel of the castle with winding paths was full of enemies who were treacherous and cunning. The tunnel of the castle with winding paths was full of enemies who were treacherous and cunning. Because they did not indulge in a face-to-face fight, they cunningly entered the castle and hit them at the back. The inmates, the soldiers inside the castle, had no chance to fight. They were overpowered by surprise. As they got caught, their galleries or seats remained vacant. See the sixth stanza. How can this shameful tale be told? I will maintain until my death. We could do nothing, being sold. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight it with. See the fifth stanza. In the fifth stanza, actually the mood of the narrator changes from overconfidence to despair. There was a wicket gate. It was guarded by a vision warder. He took something from the enemies and led them in through the maze-like tunnels. The rare treasures of the citadel were looted by the enemy. The castle fell without even a groan of protest. Now see, how can this shameful tale be told? Shameful, disgrace, shameful act, tale, story, shameful tale. The narrator says about their failure as shameful tale. I will maintain until my death. This is the shameful story of the castle. And they were betrayed by one of their own men. Is it not shameful? So, the narrator said, I will maintain until my death. I, the narrator of the poem, I will maintain until my death, till I die. I will maintain this shameful story of the castle. We could do nothing. He says, none can narrate this shameful tale. I will also maintain this shameful tale until my death. We could do nothing. Being sold, we were sold. We were sold to the enemy by one of our men. Yes, they could do nothing as they were sold. Our only enemy was gold. Our only enemy was gold. Actually, what happened? The greed seated in the soul of the aged warder was the cause of the fall of the castle. He took gold from the enemies and let the enemies to enter through the maze of tunnels. So that the narrator mentioned in the third line of the fifth stanza, the cause was lost without a groan. Without a small fight, the castle was defeated. We can say the narrator failed to look at the human soul, which has seeds of disaster. Forever relevant. The narrator failed to look at the human soul, which has the seeds of the disaster. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight it with. We had no arms, no weapons to fight it with it. The disloyalty of the vision warder. No one could fight against the greed for money. He regretted for not finding any weapon to fight with the enemy called gold. The narrator regretted for not finding any weapon to fight with the enemy called gold. He was helpless, wounded. How he would keep this truth to himself? The narrator lamented over the disloyalty of the useless warder and also decided not to disclose this shameful story to anyone. No one can narrate this shameful tale. They could do nothing as they were sold out to the enemy. Their only enemy was gold, and they had no weapon to fight against it. One can fight an enemy who is known to all. To fight an enemy who is hidden in one's heart is always tough. See, one can fight an enemy who is known to all. To fight an enemy who is hidden in one's heart is always tough. Really, this is the shameful story of the castle. The sixth stanza, the narrator narrates, we were betrayed by one of our own men, one of our own soldiers. Is it not shameful? As long as I live, I shall keep telling the story of disgrace. We were not given a chance to fight. We were simply sold to enemy by a black sheep. The greed for gold is our only enemy. Any weapon, however powerful it might be, cannot fight against gold. Hope you all understood the poem clearly. Now, this poem, The Castle by Edmund Mio, is an allegorical poem. What do you mean by allegory? An allegory is a complete narrative that involves characters and events that stand for an abstract idea or event. In other words, a story, a poem, or picture can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one. As per the definition of allegory, the poem, The Castle, can be called an allegorical poem. It is a narrative poem with many characters. The narrator, other soldiers, movers, enemy, vision warder are the characters depicted in this poem. It clearly says that if one in a big team is willing to cheat others, the whole team will fall. See, this poem clearly says that if one in a big team is willing to cheat others, the whole team will fall. The moral of the poem is human greed that will lead to the fall of a mighty army. One evil person is enough to defeat the collective strength of a whole nation. One evil person is enough to defeat the collective strength of a whole nation. The greedy warder is like a Satan who causes the fall of mankind. The greedy warder is like a Satan who causes the fall of mankind. What is the theme of the poem? Most of his themes he focused on loss and betrayal, life and death, and journeys and labyrinths. Labyrinth means a maze-like structure, death. Because he had such a kind of life, so he projected these things in his works. We shall take loss and betrayal as the theme of this poem. Thank you, children. We shall meet in the next class. Thank you. Have a nice day.